Lewis.
Kyra.
Grayson.
And Claire!
The immune system is the body's way of defending against germs and preventing infections. The skin is the body's first line of defense, and it protects against outside organisms. Vaccines are also used to protect the body by introducing the virus into the system. Sometimes the immune system mistakenly overreacts, which causes allergies. Leukopenia is a decrease in white blood cells. The antigen-antibody reaction is binding of an antigen to an antibody by weak bonds. The inflammatory response is when blood circulation increases around a wounded area.
The nervous system is a collection of nerves and neurons that transmit signals throughout the body. The brain and spinal cord are also involved. Neurons send signals to the cells through thin fibers called axons, and then release a chemical called neurotransmitters to synapses, which give commands to cells. CNS is the processing center and contains the brain, spinal cord, and neurons. The brain has three parts: the forebrain, which receives and processes sensory information; the midbrain, part of the brain system, serves as a connecting piece; and the hindbrain extends from the spinal cord. PNS is the nerves outside of the brain or spinal cord. The somatic portion controls voluntary skeletal muscles and sensory receptors, while the automatic portion controls involuntary body functions, such as emergency responses, increased heart rate, sweating, as well as everyday functions, digestion, blood pressure, etc. The tongue, a sensory organ, has taste buds that are connected to nerves and send sensations to the brain.
Excretion is the eliminating of waste from an organic body. The lungs help to release carbon dioxide, the skin releases metabolic waste through perspiration, and the liver removes toxins and purifies the blood. The kidneys, which consist of a renal artery, which is where the blood enters the kidney, the renal cortex, which is the outside of the kidney, and the renal pelvis, which takes the urine away from the body. The nephron is a cup-shaped capsule that contains capillaries and the glomerulus and a long renal tube. This helps in the kidneys with the filtration of blood. Filtration is where water and small molecules are squeezed out of the blood, and absorption occurs after filtration, where essential molecules are reabsorbed into the blood.
The respiratory system is a system that lets you breathe. The nasal cavity and mouth are the first steps in the respiratory system. The pharynx is the second step in the process. It brings air to the lung region. The larynx is the part of the system that controls your voice. The trachea filters the air we breathe in through the windpipe into the bronchi, in which they carry air directly to the lungs. The lungs then filter out the carbon dioxide and send the oxygen to the red blood cells to be carried out through the body. The alveoli is the step where the gas exchanges take place. Next, we have the diaphragm, which expands when we breathe in and to give the lungs more room to hold air. The ribs protect all of the components of the respiratory system. Your breathing is mostly automatic but can also be controlled manually. What happens between the capillaries and the alveoli is a gas exchange from the oxygen to carbon dioxide. Smoking causes inflammation of the lungs and also lung cancer.
The function of the human circulatory system is to pump blood and oxygen through the various tissues of the body. The heart pumps the blood through the body. All blood enters through the right side of the heart through two veins in the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. This blood is unoxygenated. Blood leaves the SVA and the IVA and enters into the right atrium of the heart. When the right atrium contracts, blood goes through the tricuspid valve, then to the right ventricle into the lungs. The blood picks up oxygen in the lungs and then flows from the lungs to the pulmonary veins. It then flows into the left atrium, which pumps the blood into the aorta. The aorta is the main artery of the body and takes all the blood that has pumped out of the heart and distributes it to the rest of the body. The blood on this right side of the heart does not contain much oxygen, while the blood on the left side is filled with oxygen. The components of blood are red blood cells, which carry oxygen throughout the body, and white blood cells, which fight infection. There are also platelets, which are known as thrombocytes. They're cell fragments with nuclei that work with blood clotting chemicals when someone gets a wound. Platelets are a part of the immune system. Plasma is a clear yellow tinted water, sugar, fat, protein, and salt solution which carries the red blood cells, white cells, platelets, and some other chemicals around the body. The heart beats due to electrical impulses. These impulses are generated in the sinoatrial node. As long as the heart has an oxygen supply, it will continue to beat. Blood pressure is the pressure exerted by circulating blood on the walls of blood vessels. Blood pressure varies between a maximum systolic and minimum or diastolic pressure. Blood cells are produced in the bone marrow, a jelly-like substance inside the bones made of many things including fat, blood, and special cells that turn into the various kinds of blood cells. All blood cells come from stem cells produced in the marrow. The spleen filters out old blood cells and destroys them. Common diseases of the heart are hypertension, which is also known as high blood pressure. This can go unnoticed but can cause strokes or heart attacks. Atherosclerosis is a condition in which an artery wall thickens as a result of the accumulation of fatty materials such as cholesterol or triglycerides.
The digestive system is the system that breaks down food and extracts nutrients from it. The mouth is the first step in the digestive system. It breaks food down mechanically by chewing and chemically with enzymes. The esophagus gets food from the mouth. It pushes food down with muscle contractions. The stomach is a hollow container to hold the food while enzymes break it down. The small intestine gets enzymes from the liver and breaks down the food even more. The large intestine absorbs the nutrients from the food. The rectum takes everything from the large intestine and ships it to the anus. The anus brings food outside of the body.
There are 20 major bones in the body. These bones are the skull, the sternum, the ribs, vertebral column, clavicles, scapula, humerus, radius, pelvis, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, finger phalanges, femur, patella, fibula, tibia, tarsals, metatarsals, and toe phalanges. The functions of the skeletal system are to support, protect, enable movement, and provide storage for minerals. It also is a place for bone cell formation. The composition of the bones have 3 layers. The periosteum sound, compact bone, and spongy bone layers. The differences in structure and function between the 4 major kinds of movable joints are that the hinge allows movement in one direction, the pivot allows a rotating or twisting motion, the ball and socket allows the greatest range of movement, and the gliding increases the joint's mobility. Some major injuries and disorders of the bone are osteoporosis. This is a disease resulting in the loss of bone tissue. Another main one is arthritis. This is the inflammation of the joints.
Skeletal muscle is found on bones for the purpose of moving them. They can contract and pull but not push. Smooth muscle is found in intestines, eyes, reproductive organs, and stomachs. It is involuntary and often aids in digestion. Cardiac muscle is what makes up the heart. It conducts electrical impulses, allowing the heart to beat. The mechanism of muscle contractions evaluate the nerves released for the muscle to contract. They discuss the role of calcium in turning the muscle on. Flexors allow the limbs to bend, while extensors allow the limbs to extend. Muscle fatigue occurs when the muscles cannot exert normal force and when more effort than normal is required to achieve a desired level of force. Tendons connect muscles to bone. The all or none response means that when the brain sends a signal to a muscle, it fully contracts. Thereby, a muscle is either fully contracted or not contracted at all. Strength training is building up muscles to be able to bear more weight in a single maximum effort, while endurance training is training muscles to sustain a submaximal force over a period of time. Tendinitis may occur when strong or repeated movement creates excessive friction between the tendon's outer surface and an adjacent bone.
Ta-da!